The most valuable lesson I learned when learning a new language was that input is everything. Not just for learning a language, but for life in general. Input, what is that? Input is what I would describe as anything that comes into your brain. That could be information, emotion, mostly stemming from other people, your environment, okay? But input is also more than just that. It's also your diet, what you're eating, how much are you exercising, like training your body, giving your body stimulus, right, as an input. Your sleep is also another form of input. Now, what do inputs produce? Outputs, right? Get input, it turns itself into output. That's what happens. Input creates output. Input is followed by output, right? That's a basic principle of just human life and also computers as well. Anyone who likes computers will find out that when you type stuff on your keyboard, that is input. It's saved to a standard input file, then it's displayed in standard output file, which outputs text and things on your screen, right? That specific example was for Linux, but most computers work that way in general, right? Input to output. So why then is this input and output so important, and why do I think that learning a language pretty much changed my life forever, not just because I learned the language? What's the meta skill that I've learned today? When learning a language, input is the most important thing. Getting immersion, getting comprehensible input is what Dr. Stephen Krashen calls it. It's getting the message, getting that one sentence where there's a word you don't know, and then you learn the word you don't know, and now you have the sentence, and now you've leveled up your comprehension because you understand the full context of that input. Right? And the only way to increase what's called an I+1 sentence, which is what this sentence thing I just described to you is, that concept, is by getting lots of them and lots of them on repeat via input, which is native media, so reading and listening to native materials. It's not. Language learning is not output. It's not speaking. It's not writing. It's not presenting. That's just displaying what you already know. That's just actualizing your knowledge, as some people call it. Your input is inside and then you are putting it to output, right? But without the input, you cannot output successfully. Imagine this. You're going to France, let's say. You speak to a person on the road. You've learned that, hey, I know how to ask for where the train station is. So I'm going to say, like, what is it for French? Où est la train station, right? And he speaks back to you in French. You don't understand. Why? Input. You did not get a significant amount of input. You only got output. You only practiced for output, right? You learned one sentence. You memorized it. You got that minuscule bit of input, and you outputted it. But your focus was on the output. Now, when you received input from the French speaker, you didn't comprehend it because you've never got that raw native input before, or at least not enough of it to have internalized the language. So that's how it works for language learning. I think most people will now be able to be on the same page that, okay, immersion, getting lots of input is what develops a language. But it's not what just develops your language. See, for the longest time, for 3 years, learning Korean full-time, just immersing myself every day, pretty much starving myself of English, right? Only getting Korean input to improve my Korean output, and it was worked successfully, as you've seen documented on my channel. That was amazing, but little did I know, input is everything. It's not just your language learning, it's your health, your way of thinking, your general outlook on life. It's all determined by the inputs that you receive. Right? Inputs to outputs is probably the greatest idea that I've ever come across in my lifetime, if I'm being really honest, because the language learning thing was one massive thing, and I always knew while doing AJAP, which is alljapaneseallthetime.com for all the people who don't know, it's just a method of learning which says you have to just swear off your native language and just get input in your target language, and it works, right? That was what I thought was like, oh my god, this is the best thing in my life. This has taught me so much about success. This has just made, like, if I hadn't discovered this, where the hell would I be? You know, I would still be watching TV and doing all those things, but I'd be doing it in English, and then it would be ruining my quality of life rather than, you know, putting me to the next level. Now, I do believe that everyone is perfect, as they already are, but I also believe that everyone can still get better even though they're perfect, right? So if you have bad habits and bad inputs, don't feel bad with what I'm about to say, but you should be aware that you can always get better. And why not, you know? If you're not going to, don't like stress yourself out doing this, but being aware of what's going to make you better is going to be very helpful for you, me, everyone, right? So input. Why? So that was language learning. What about health? What about health? If I want to be a healthy person, my goal is not to be successful financially, but it is to be a healthy person. If that is you, how do you go about doing that? Is it playing lots of cricket? Is it shooting lots of hoops? Potentially. Is it having the goal of having the best body? Probably not, right? Probably not. Why? Because that's an output. That is, you're focused on the result. Here's my abs, here's my big body, and then I can get girls and this and that and that. That's not healthy. That's not being healthy. Being healthy is eating the right food, sleeping enough, going to the gym, exercising your muscles to the point they break down and regenerate and get stronger. Right? Strength, not aesthetics. Aesthetics is not health. It may have some rollover into mental health, because if you clean your desk and these sort of things, I'm not disregarding aesthetics at all. You know, things like your building, if your building, your living looks nice, it's probably signaling, you know, might make you like an incrementally bit more mentally clear and a little bit happier. But for the most part, if your basic survival needs are met, you're probably okay. Health, the inputs you get from that would be, yeah, your diet, sleep, and exercise, right? Are you doing these? But most people really focus on the result, don't they? They really focus on how much can I bench? How much can I, you know, get the calories in so I can bulk up? Or, well, having the goal of being bulked up. So if the goal was being to bulk up, the inputs would be the calories, right? People focus on the outcome way too much. Now, how can we use this input to alter our lives for the better? Now, one thing that I found that has absolutely changed my life was social media is another form of input. And what is the output that this input creates? What is that? When you consume social media, even though I suppose this video now is technically on social media, but when I'm talking more about the short form, social media-esque videos, not just long form guides kind of thing. When you consume TikToks and, you know, memes and 10-minute, you know, short top 10 movies, top 10 this, top 10 that, you end up thinking like everybody else for sure. But what's more dangerous than that is your attention is fragmented, right? If you sit down to watch something and it's only 5 minutes long, 1 minute long, and you're done, and then next video, the recommended, the algorithm just goes right to here, right? You're just stuck in the loop, you're addicted. That is an input that has a result on your attention, which would be, I suppose, your output of being able to achieve good results in your life, right? Attention. But so many people don't protect their attention. And it's especially easy to not do that in the modern world because the social media companies, big tech, they prey on you checking the damn thing multiple times a day, right? That's how they win, right? You never really have a problem with Facebook or YouTube if you are only checking it, say, an hour a week, right? That's probably actually all you need to check it for. Like, if you think about the value you get from Facebook, the input that is Facebook, and the output that you receive, the input may be, you know, seeing your friends, like wedding photos and all this, you know, social stuff, right? You probably only need to spend about an hour a week to actually get that out of your system, to get that craving done, like to get the benefits. But what do most people do? They have it installed on their phone, which they check every hour, every 2 hours, just just see what's on Facebook, see what's on social media. But what does that do? What does that input? What does that action do to their output? Like I said, it fragments their attention. They're no longer able to concentrate on anything, right? To concentrate, look in, to the lens of the camera for something like, for example's sake. That is really sort of was mind blowing to me because I never saw social media as an input. So that's the input there. It alters your attention. What else does it alter? It alters your way of thinking because if you follow certain groups, so if you perhaps follow me, you'll end up thinking more like me, and hopefully you want to think more like me because perhaps I'm more conscious or I provide you some value that is, somewhat beneficial to your life. But obviously don't watch just me, get your information sources from other people. But social media gurus, we've got meat eaters and the vegans, right? We've got meat eaters, vegans, fighting against each other. All the meat eaters say, carnivore diet, that's the best thing ever, it's going to solve all your problems. Vegans will say, oh no, plant-based is the way, go plant-based, right? We've got things going here. What if you're only consuming meat-eating content? Obviously, you're going to think that the carnivore diet is the best because you've been programmed to believe it, right? That's just programming, that's just 101, right? You guys understand this concept. I don't want to belittle it down, but what if you get just the input of veganism, then you can believe in veganism, and then you can become a little plant-based man, right? But what if you got a little bit of input from here, a little bit of input from here? Do you know where you end up? Balanced opinion, right? Balanced view of things. Now, obviously, the next step to that would be, since social media is a low resolution input, what's a higher resolution input? Books, papers, studies, written word, long form content, an hour-long lecture, courses, podcasts. These are all examples of higher quality input or higher quality informational inputs. But most people don't get high quality input. Why? Because the low resolution stuff is quick and easy and cheap. Like scrolling on Instagram to look at how to scale your business, right? It's a lot easier than reading 10 business books and actually applying the lessons. And not just reading as well, because a lot of people do just read these books and don't do the exercises. You have to do the exercises, guys. Please, for the love of God, do your damn exercises. Alright, I'm not your dad, I'm not your teacher, but you gotta write this stuff down, man. That's how you improve, that's how you actually put the things into practice. Like every self-help book ever is completely useless unless you implement what's in the chapter, so please, consider that. It's a little bonus tip for anyone who's interested in self-help books or scaling their business to $1 million, but that probably shouldn't be your goal anyway, but anyway. Inputs, guys, inputs. So, what are some inputs then for you to control? I know you're watching this video right now on social media, that is a form of input. I like to think that my longer form videos are more of a higher level and more, not just engaging, but provides value to you. And I hope that our thing we got going here is genuine, because I don't want to be one of those people who fragments your intention. I want to be someone who helps curate it, keeps it slow, slow consumption, but also, brings you some value in the form of new ideas which change your life, and then you get better, and then if you get better, you can help me later on, and everyone's helping each other because everyone's getting better, and life is just getting better for everyone worldwide on a mass scale, alleviating all unnecessary suffering, right? That's probably my ultimate goal, if I really think about it. Now, how could you perhaps curate your inputs? Listening to me, longer form videos, that's great. Books, podcasts, courses, studies. These are all where you want to be looking, guys. Do not be fooled by the self-help YouTubers who post 10-minute videos of, oh my god guys, this is how you get a six-pack, and if you do get a six-pack, then you'll eventually be happy and be really successful. Subscribe, buy my course, all of that, right? No real promise of value. No, it's all just perceived. It's all just marketing, guys. It's all an illusion. And this 10-minute clip of 10-minute guy here, 10-minute guy there, 10-minute guy there, 5-minute guy here, shorts here, shorts there, shorts there. You cannot think for yourself anymore. You've got no awareness of your own decisions. You've got no real literature to base your decisions off of, right? Because at least with podcasts and longer form videos, you've heard the full argument. You've sat through, listened to every single point that the person said and got the full story. You can't get the full story in a 10-minute video. You could maybe get it in a 20-minute video, 25-minute video, but that's like just about pushing it. I think the ideal for videos is about 30 minutes, right? Because that's at least enough time for you to sink in. And also it's usually, at least with social media content, it's usually the time frame where the creator will actually put effort into what they're saying rather than just reading off a little script, for 5 minutes to get your attention, to get you hooked, to make you click the subscribe button so that you buy into their funnel and buy their course and give them money. And that's all they care about is the money. Well, maybe they care about it more so than the actual value of helping you, right? It's a tricky one because I can't blame any one particular person because I understand why. It's just people really could be better off being aware of this, because I think a lot of people's problems stems from poor quality input just in life in general. Like, think about it. So that's just social media. If you wanted to be the best student, right, what would the best student need to get good grades? And that's, we discussed in my last video that getting good grades doesn't really make you any more fulfilled well-being wise, but let's just say you had that goal for whatever reason, right? If you want to be the best student that got the best grades as our output, as our result, what inputs will get you that result? Good night's sleep, really great diet, time spent studying, time spent reading, are all these 4 inputs. Okay, I guarantee you, if you control each one of them, your quality of your output will go up, and the quality of your sleep correlates to your quality of cognitive function, the quality of your diet, also again cognitive function, general health and well-being. Same for sleep as well. Time spent studying is your time spent practicing your craft. So I suppose that is somewhat output. But then with studying, you're also reading things, so you're taking in things which is input. And then the time spent reading. All right, that's probably the highest form of input you can get, getting all that information. So we've got information and we've got a health input. We've also got another health input, and then time spent studying, I suppose, is somewhat an output, but that's doing the thing. You need these other 3 to do the one thing to get the output, right? So the question you need to ask yourself is, I've got an output in mind. Everyone has got a goal in mind, an output in mind. Or if you've got no goals, then you probably have the goal of getting up and having a shower and being clean today. Maybe, I'd hope so. Brushing your teeth, something like that. But what are the things that are going to get you there? What are the inputs that are going to take you to your goals? For the more grandiose things, perhaps graduating college is a goal. What are the inputs that are going to get you there? Reading, time spent, sleeping, studying, getting a good diet. Most of it boils down to the 4 or 5 I just mentioned. Actually, the information, social media. Are you using it? Are you just getting it from books? Are you getting from podcasts? Are you getting high quality, courses, high quality lectures, information, health, sleep, diet, exercise? That's most of where the inputs that you should care about come from, right? So have a think. Can you control those? If you can, then do so. If so, that'll get you there, right? I'm going to try and give you an example now of one time in my life where I got good input, right? So before I learned Korean, and I preach my lights kind of guys, but we're just going to ignore that. I studied from textbooks. I studied using grammar books, and it was all just output. It was all just conjugate this verb, learn these words, conjugate, grammar, conjugate, write, speak, and I got nowhere. I actually got laughed at on the playground when trying to speak to my one Korean friend, say, hey, like hello or whatever, some basic word. And then I decided that, well, this isn't getting me anywhere. So if I reanalyze the process, I ended up going So the only place I knew at the time, which was social media, which was YouTube, right? Not social media, not standard social media, but YouTube, which is still social media. So don't think you're okay just watching YouTube videos. It's still social media. I found a channel that talked about this one website called alljapanesealltime.com, which is a blog. So I used social media to get me to another higher form of input, which was a blog about learning Japanese, but it's also applicable to language learning, which stated that input is basically the best thing. So it almost is a weird sort of meta thing of, I found some source of input which let me know that input is the best thing, and then because I put that into practice, it helped me. But I read on the website that what makes a good Japanese speaker, or a speaker of any language, is getting 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours was the golden rule, right? 10,000 hours of listening, it was specifically, or 10,000 hours of immersion, listening, so listening and reading really, but it was mostly listening. That became my new goal. My old goal was finish grammar book, finish talk to me in the Korean textbook, finish 1,000 words, finish 10,000 words of flashcards, right? Okay. That's not input though, is it? That's just results, output. You don't get the results by trying to do the results only. You get the results from your inputs, which is what we described in this video. That is exactly the key takeaway. So what did I do to control my inputs? I read the website and it said, get 10,000 hours of listening. So I plugged in my MP3 player full of dramas, full of Korean stuff. In fact, I think one of the first dramas I'd watched was one called Itaewon Class, or Itaewon Class, right? And that, I watched it first in English before with English subtitles. And then I decided to actually get the highest form of input, which would be, if I'm trying to learn Korean, I need Korean only input, right? So I turned off English subtitles and watched it in Korean, I think with Korean subtitles on, so that was just double input, right? Korean, in my brain, Korean. Watched that whole thing actively. Then I downloaded it onto my MP3 player, put it into MP3 format and had it on my player, which I had earphones connected to, and I swear to God, every time I went outside, just boop, headphones in, and I accumulated hours and hours of input throughout the day, probably like 10 hours a day, maybe, something like ridiculous like that. Sometimes it was pretty mad like that. Sometimes I would get 4 hours of like active watching time, and then all of my time, like including my sleep sometimes, would be passively listening to the content just so I could get that Korean input, which would take me to the 10,000 hour mark, right? I'm not even sure if I actually have reached 10,000 hours, but 10,000 hours is just like it's one of those like North Star kind of goals. So I was getting input that way, and slowly something happened. My Korean ability started to, actually take off. Like I could actually understand full sentences here and there. But like he said, I'm gonna go to the store, or he said, like sorry about this, sorry about that. Like I started to understand things more. And then my comprehension of Korean dramas, Korean TV, Korean media, Korean in general, went up from 10% to 20% to 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, 8%, and like 90%, 95% where it is now, probably. And like, I'm golden. All because of just this input, all because I figured out what was the most important from my output. So, you have a goal. Maybe your goal is to learn language. If your goal is to learn language, get there by controlling inputs. What inputs should you control? Well, I want to be able to speak Korean, understand TV, understand books, understand why people speak to me. Okay, speak Korean, that's an output. So, not really much we could do there. That's kind of a goal. I want to understand TV. I want to understand this, understand that. Understanding we can work with, because that's an input. We can, measure that, and we can actually control that. So I'm gonna focus my attention on understanding TV. How do I understand TV? Well, it's not through English, because that's a low quality form of input. That's not Korean. That's not helping me. That's not practicing understanding. That's practicing understanding through a filtered form, which is English, your native language, or whatever your native language is. So get rid of native language subtitles. Consume the raw input itself, and it will Koreanify your brain to the point where you can speak Korean. Right? Sounds relatively simple because it is relatively simple, yet a lot of people miss the point because they only look at their results, the outputs, what are other people doing as well. That's another really, really, really crucial point. Don't just believe your gurus, don't just do what other people are doing, try it for yourself and see if it works. That's the only way you can truly believe something. A lot of this misinformation online in this modern era is down to the fact that people just believe blindly. But even what I'm saying right now, I'm telling you about input is the bomb, input is the greatest thing that's ever happened, right? I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be wrong, right? The only way you're gonna know is to try it for yourself. And the only way I was able to know was to try it for myself. Even people who I think have, like, you know, some ridiculous views, like, you know, like sort of vegan diet or carnivore diet or this, the only way I'm gonna know is to try it for myself. So I have full, you know, I keep it humble on that. I will, if I believe that these carnivore guys are really, you know, saying the right thing, then maybe I give it a try. Because at the end of the day, things like that, like your diet, small diet changes, aren't really, you know, going to put you in any danger. It's not like you're saying, oh, like, you can definitely fly, guys, so try to jump off a cliff. It's not like, you know, putting you at any real risk. Like, if it's something's putting you at risk, then there's probably less incentive to try. But, you know, you don't have to have that much common sense to realise that. I hope not. I really hope you guys have the common sense. So, yeah. Obviously be careful on who you trust and who you experiment with, but always be experimenting. Again, that was also on the AJAC website, which is funny. This one website pretty much told me not everything I need to know about success, but a lot. But input being the main key idea. Okay, so that was input. I rambled on about it loads, and I hope that you now understand why I love it so much and why it really can be the thing that makes you go from A to B, quite literally. If you want to learn more about that, I'd recommend you check out Dr. Stephen Krashen. He is a linguist and he talks about comprehensible input in the context of language learning. But again, this does apply to everything. Another resource you might want to check out is this guy that's called Sam Ovens on YouTube. He had a video discussing a similar topic, and I just want to give my take on it for the language learners out there, and also the people who are more like privacy conscious or social media conscious, technology aware, tech savvy. Yeah. So those are some places you can find out more. I also would like to finish off saying that don't post on social media just for the sake of posting on social media. Create value. Create long form stuff, long form ideas, real value, not just what everybody else is doing. Why? Because that's the highest quality form of input that someone else can receive. I hope that my outputs today served you well, and this input has leveled up your experience of existence in some way, form or another. Stay conscious, guys, and I'll see you next time.